All right, welcome back to our 100 Business Case Study series. Today we're jumping into case study number 4, and it's a big one, Airbnb. We all know it now as this global travel giant, but its origin story is, honestly, one of the best lessons in entrepreneurship you will ever hear. Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, just look at this number. Today, Airbnb is a titan, a household name with a valuation that's regularly north of $100 billion. It didn't just join the travel industry, it completely flipped the script on how we all think about travel, creating an entirely new category. It's just a massive, massive company.
So you see a number like that, and the first question has to be, where did this thing even come from? You'd probably guess it started with a ton of investment money, right? Or maybe a team of veteran execs with some airtight business plan? Well, the real story is way more interesting and a whole lot scrappier.
Yeah, that's it. It started with 2 recent design school grads living in San Francisco who literally could not pay their rent. Their grand, world-changing idea? Let's just throw an air mattress on our living room floor and see if anyone will pay to sleep on it. That's it. That humble, frankly desperate idea was the seed for the $100 billion company we know today.
So this gets us to the first big phase in our framework, creating a minimum viable product, or an MVP. See, the idea for Airbnb wasn't born from some grand vision to disrupt hospitality. It was a super simple solution to a very real personal problem. They were broke, a huge design conference was rolling into town, and every hotel was completely sold out.
Now, it's really important we're on the same page here with what an MVP is. It is not about building a perfect, polished product. The entire point is to answer one single question as fast and as cheap as you possibly can. Will somebody, anybody, actually give me money for this?
And Airbnb's original MVP is the perfect example of just how minimum you can go. The product? Literally air mattresses on the floor. Their store? A super basic website they built themselves called airbedandbreakfast.com. And the service? Well, to make it a real bed and breakfast, they offered Pop-Tarts and acted as local tour guides. That's it. They were not trying to build an empire, they were just trying to make rent. And it worked. They actually got 3 guests that first weekend, and each one paid $80 a night. This moment right here was everything. This was their validation. They had just proven that total strangers would pay real money to sleep on another stranger's floor. The core idea, as crazy as it was, had a heartbeat.
But after that initial spark of success, things got really, really hard. And that takes us to phase 2. This is all about survival. It's about how you fund your idea when you are dead broke and drowning in debt.
I mean, literally, the second that conference ended, poof, the traffic to their website just flatlined. 0. Crickets. That initial buzz was gone and nobody cared. They were trying to launch a business, but all they were really doing was sinking deeper and deeper, racking up over $20,000 in credit card debt. The whole idea felt like it was dead on arrival.
So what do you do when your tech startup is failing? Well, you pivot to breakfast cereal, obviously. It was 2008, right in the middle of the presidential election. So using their design skills, they created and sold these politically themed novelty cereals. You had Obama O's, a breakfast of change, and Cap McCain's, a maverick in every bite.
And you're not going to believe it, but this totally wild stunt actually worked. They painstakingly hand-glued 1,000 of these custom boxes and sold them for $40 each. This raised about $30,000. This wasn't venture capital. This was cereal money. And that cereal money was the only thing that kept the company from going under.
That 30 grand was just enough to keep them alive and get them into the famous startup accelerator Y Combinator. But here's the thing, their business was still not working. And this leads us to phase 3, and maybe the biggest lesson of all. Sometimes the most inefficient, unscalable thing you can do is the only thing that will save your business.
Their mentor there, the legendary Paul Graham, gave them some advice that sounds so simple, but it changed everything. They were trying to fix their business, which was mostly in New York City, from their laptops back in San Francisco. And he told them, stop coding, get on a plane, go to your users.
And they actually did it. They flew to New York and they stayed in their own listings. And the second they started meeting their hosts in person, it was like a light bulb went off. The problem wasn't the website, it wasn't the idea, it was the pictures. The hosts were using these awful, dark, blurry photos from their flip phones. The real insight? This wasn't a demand problem, it was a trust problem. So, did they build a new photo upload tool? No. They did the exact opposite of what you think a tech company should do. They did something completely unscalable. They rented a nice camera,
They flew to New York, and they literally went door to door taking professional photos of their hosts' apartments themselves. For free.
And the result? Well, you can see it right here. It was immediate and it was dramatic. Listings with those professional photos started getting 2 to 3 times more bookings. Just like that. Overnight. This was the real turning point for the entire company. They solved the problem not by writing code, but by picking up a camera.
So when you zoom out and you look at this whole crazy story, what you see is actually a really powerful 4-part blueprint that honestly applies to almost any new business idea. It's just a masterclass in how you start something from nothing. First, you validate your idea in the simplest, cheapest way possible. For them, it was renting out air mattresses. Second, you have to found the business, doing whatever it takes to survive, even if that means selling cereal. Third, you build by doing those unscalable things, like taking the photos yourself to really fix the core product. And only then, after all of that, are you actually ready to grow.
And that really leaves us with one big question for you. Every great business has its own version of that photography trip. That one unscalable, hands-on, customer-focused action that solved a core problem and unlocked all the growth. So, what's the unscalable thing that your idea needs to truly work?